finally, for our last question, this was submitted by Alphabeth Soup, excuse me. Love the cleverness there. And also Hunter Rain Yoga again. And they both asked a variation of this same question, which was, do you have any advice for someone who's looking to sell prints for the first time? And I think that's a great question and a really good one to end on. And I kind of have three different pieces of advice that I would love to give anyone that is starting out. And first of all, I would just say, be sure that your heart is in it. So when you start a print shop, the margins in terms of profit aren't that high. And so I think especially when you're starting out, you're probably not going to be making sort of oodles of money that you're going to be able to live off of. But if you really love it, if you really love creating art and you love the idea of someone being able to have a piece of art that speaks to them, speaks to their heart, and can be in their home, then I think you should go for it. Just make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, because you might find yourself in a position where you're like, this is a lot of work for not a ton of money. And that's okay if your heart is in it. I would also recommend having at least a small audience of people who know your work and, maybe on an email list or social media or something like that, or friends and family that are asking for your art, because it's not easy to sell things and you're going to have to promote sort of constantly. And so having that little audience of people to initially, speak to is really helpful in getting the shop off the ground and spreading the word. The second thing is, I would say, break all of the to-dos with opening a shop into smaller pieces and really sit down and write out each little step. I actually used my own ready-to-launch spreadsheet that I sell in the resource shop at Made Vibrant, because it really helps me break it down into categories. So I had, an email promotion category. I had a logistics category. I had things related to the website and what needed to happen there. And then for each of those subcategories, I just break it down into every single little thing that I would have to do. So it's creating the shop listing in the e-commerce shop, setting up the e-commerce settings, communicating with this printer and seeing if they would work with our process, all those little bits. And I know it can seem overwhelming, but I think once you get it down on paper, it will seem a lot more, at least a little bit less overwhelming, because it's not in your head anymore. And then you just go line by line and say what needs to happen first before this other thing can happen. And that's the way that I've just kind of approached it and said, I'm not going to do this right. I'm just going to do it my own way. And I'm just going to tackle each thing as I arrive at it. And knowing that I can always change it down the road. So that's kind of my advice I would give in terms of logistics and process. And then finally, I would just start small. So maybe you can test the waters by doing like a pop-up shop or only selling 3 of your prints to just get the process down. I think that in hindsight, the idea of starting with a collection and doing 40 prints and really, that was a huge undertaking. And I think, I'm glad I did it because it kind of just threw us into the deep end. But, years ago or 2 years ago, I started with a pop-up shop, so I would sell 1 print at a time, and that at least gave me a little bit of an understanding of what the process was like for selling prints. So that would be my advice. Start small, make sure your heart's in it, and try to write down all your to-dos into really digestible pieces so that you don't get overwhelmed.